Good evening to you and welcome to the 7 p.m. edition of the news on DBS television. Let's begin with our headlines. Inhabitants of Brazzaville neighborhood in Douala 3 municipality again plunged into days of prolonged darkness. This comes just few weeks after the previous one that left them for 4 days without electricity power. While poachers and traffickers continue their smuggling in and out of Cameroon, custom officials in the north region of Cameroon are equally working hard to stop this illegal activity in this part of the country and beyond. These are the major stories we have in tonight's newscast. Stay with us and get the details when we return shortly. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us for this 7 p.m. edition of the news in the English language here on DBS television. I am Cynthia Nguemo. Barely 2 weeks after suffering from prolonged electricity cuts, the Brazzaville neighborhood that is in the Douala 3 municipality has again been plunged into days of darkness. This time around, it is in the Pamplemousse neighborhood that is a part of the quarter known as Pamplemousse that has since Saturday been without electricity power. Inhabitants of the area say the power outage comes after an overloaded truck transporting foodstuff accidentally pulled down electricity cables and poles, which till this Monday were still lying on the ground, not only depriving inhabitants and business persons of the area from electricity, but equally exposing them to electrocution. Considering that the situation has been for over 48 hours and the company in charge of electricity supply only began works today, the people decry the slow response to this problem, which is quite similar to some previous ones experienced some time back. And over in the town of Yaoundé, still in Cameroon, the second phase of a training program for good governance and the fight against terrorism has been launched in the National School of Administration and Magistracy, ENAM. This initiative seeks to reinforce the capacity of administrative and judiciary authorities to handle situations of extreme and violent extremism or terrorism. This is in the report of Ate Bonaventure, which is next.
60 participants are to take part in the second phase of the special training program for administrators and magistrates to combat terrorism. The program falls within the partnership between the National School of Administration and Magistracy ENAM and the Global Center on Cooperative Security.
It's really important, and I'm really happy to see that the government of Cameroon is focusing on providing the skills to the administrators and magistrates working in areas that are touched by attacks by Boko Haram and ISIS-Wa. Finally, I just want to note that, again, terrorism affects us all. And even though we're doing this training, we're very happy to do this training. It's a training from both sides. It's an exchange of ideas from both sides.
The objective of the training is to equip the participants with adequate skills to better counter terrorist activities with respect to human rights.
Basically, this training is for administrators and magistrates within the context of terrorism, and of course within the context of good governance and justice, to ensure that they're better prepared to respond to the needs of the populations, particularly those in the far north region.
Key actors in the project include administrative, judiciary, and officials of the Department of Military Justice.
We intend to be more practical because actors on the field, they face many challenges. When these challenges are brought to the table, we can argue them out and end up look for good practices that we go back to the field to manage the phenomenon.
According to the director of ENAM, Bertrand Pierre Sumbuangula, the models of the training courses shall be taught to Year 2 students in the second semester.
A poaching network which does in or deals in the trafficking of pangolin shells has been intercepted and obstructed by custom officers in the north region of Cameroon and particularly in Gashiga. In the following report, Rogeatu Buba tells us that the successful mission was a result of collaboration between the customs of Cameroon and that of neighboring Nigeria. Her report.
Pangolins are one of the most hunted animals in the world, and the north region of Cameroon is no exception. It is hunted not just for its meat, but especially for its scales, which supposedly possess healing and aphrodisiac properties. Though hunting pangolin is illegal in Cameroon since 2016, poachers still stop at nothing to kill and commercialize their scales. In North Cameroon recently, elements of the Gashiga Customs Office seized more than 42 bags of giant pangolin scales mixed with a cargo of black pepper, which served as a cover, according to the head of the Gashiga Customs Commercial Office, Bra Pierre. The traffickers attempted to smuggle the shells into Nigeria, from where it would have continued the ancient black market, where it is worth over 4 billion CFA francs. Fonga Sylvester Ngwelong, head of Senior Customs Office at Gashiga, says an alert they received from the Nigerian custom led to the crackdown, which is a record-breaking one. It adds to efforts by Cameroonian customs to combat the trafficking of wildlife.
Clients of the defunct microfinance institution Comesi have been called upon to identify their account only in the headquarters so as to recover their money. This information was made public by the liquidator winding up the institution. Mange Venasius completes that story in the following report.
Following the decision of COBAC of 2019/117, withdrawing the authorization of Comesi, a second category microfinance establishment, it has been a nightmare for these clients who were completely in a loss as their lifetime savings were gradually being disappearing before their own eyes. Things are becoming promising as the liquidator, TOA, appointed by COBAC and the High Court to wind up the affairs of the defunct institution, is working round the clock to identify the clients and pay back their money. The exercise of identification is only done at the Comesi headquarters at Aqua Douala. The liquidator insists that any other person engaging with whosoever is doing so at his own risk. Although at this point so far, the restless clients are divided with the pace things are going. To some, like this man, he is satisfied since his documents are being processed, with the hope that he will finally have his lifetime savings. To others, they can only be satisfied when they finally lay hands on their money. Money which the liquidator says they have liaised with mobile money transfer agencies so as to facilitate the process.
In other news stories, the contribution of civil society organizations in the follow-up of the United Nations resolution to involve women in peace processes and advocacy has come under discussion in Yaoundé today. This was during a ceremony organized by the International League for Peace and Freedom, as Mange Venasius tells us in the following report.
Impact of armed conflict on
the persistence of violence and the disproportionate impact of armed conflicts on women led to the adoption of UN Resolution 1325 in the year 2000 that gave women the right to participate in conflict prevention initiatives. This event was an occasion to evaluate the level of implementation of the above-mentioned resolution in Cameroon.
The CSO is not able to sufficiently appreciate the reality of what is happening with regards to women, peace and security, and what the government says or what the UN is coming in to work on with the government. And we also have a major limitation in the area of localization.
Studies have shown that women and girls have been most affected in regions that have been witnessing violent extremism in Cameroon, reason why the first National Action Plan was adopted in December 2020 to get more women involved in peace advocacy.
Grassroots women, the local women in the villages, working in the market, doing activities, basic activities, they need to be able to have a feel of this document.
The exchanges that took place under the auspices of the Minister of Women's Empowerment and partners brought together civil society and human rights stakeholders. They are upbeat that the recommendations of the report are going to reinforce national and global action for a more inclusive approach in conflict resolution.
We end this section, which is news in Cameroon in culture, where the 2021 edition of the International Festival of Cinematography of Bafoussam has rounded up over the weekend with calls for more encouragement so that the standards attained this far can be maintained. Let's get the full story in the following report with Mange Venasius.
The 2021 edition of the International Festival of Cinematography of Bafoussam, marked by the COVID-19 pandemic, has succeeded to overcome the health challenges plaguing the country and the world at large under the patronage of Honorable Fortsing Fortso. For 3 days, the jury succeeded in going through more than 20 contenders. 8 films were selected and awards were given out last March 27, 2021, in the presence of administrative authorities like the regional governor Awa Fonkwa Augustine, who, from his own point of view, evaluated the noticeable input of the organizers.
She worked with a lot of passion, and the 9th edition, we've seen that with the support of Honorable Dr. Fortso, as well as the other partners, they've supported her, and we've come up with a wonderful occasion in terms of participation.
To the administrator, this 9th edition was quite interested that Bafoussam city dwellers could not but take appointment for next year.
We are looking forward towards the 10th edition, and we are praying that there should be better mobilization and participation.
The patron of the 9th edition believes that the initiative needs enough support to propel the concept to higher height.
Cinema can be a source of wealth, so we should encourage this activity. I like to thank Mrs. Alvin, the president of this organization.
The 2021 edition rounded up with the election of Miss FESIP 2021.
In news out of the Cameroonian borders, in the African continent, at least 12 people or a dozen people have died in Mozambique following an attack that occurred recently in the northern part of the country. And in Cairo, Egypt, at least 18 other people have been killed and 24 severely wounded following the collapse of a story building in that part of the country in the early hours of Saturday. Rogeatu Buba completes those stories in the following.
Dozens of people have been killed in Mozambique in an attack on the northern town of Palma, including 7 people whose convoy of vehicles was ambushed as they attempted to flee. According to Umar Saranga, the spokesman for the Defense and Security Forces, hundreds of other people, both local and foreigners, were rescued from Palma. The exact number of people wounded and killed remained unclear. The town of some 75,000 people had previously been a refuge for people growing insecurity and violence. On March 24th, a group of terrorists penetrated the headquarters of Palma village and unleashed actions that culminated with the assassination of dozens of defenseless people. Government-contracted helicopters were searching for more survivors Witnesses have described bodies in the streets of Palma, some of them beheaded. In Cairo, at least 18 people were killed and 24 injured when an apartment building collapsed in the early hours of Saturday. Rescue workers have been searching for any survivor trapped under the rubble of the building in the El Salam neighborhood. It was not immediately known what caused the building's collapse. An engineering committee was formed to examine the structural integrity of neighboring buildings. Building collapses are not uncommon in Egypt, where construction is widely spread in shanty towns. The government has recently launched a crackdown on illegal buildings across the country, jailing violators and in many cases destroying the buildings.
That's what we gathered for this Monday edition of the news on DBS Television. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow, same time on DBS Television, of course, with me again, Cynthia Mbelo. Good night. See you tomorrow.